All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Badass Banking. I've got the infamous Ted Brown with me today from Digital Onboarding. Ted, how you doing?
Hi, Brian. I'm doing great.
Ted and I go way back to my GZO days. Ted came from prior to starting the company. When did you start? 2015?
2015, yep.
2015. He was a
Time
bottom line.
flies.
It does flies. It's scary. So you were at Bottom Line Technologies for a while, but probably more importantly, you got really involved in the Endera product, which was a great product back in the day.
Yeah, I ran the whole roller coaster with Bandera 2005 till we sold the company to Bottom Line Technologies in 2014. And I stuck around for a while and then started this gig.
Yeah, well, that's a good gig. I know you guys are busy, and I was excited that you guys partnered with Strategy Core. There's already some magic being made between you from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's a great relationship. They're a great company. Really excited to keep going forward with those guys.
Yeah, it's fun being small enough to be nimble, yet big enough that you can scale and apply yourself as you need to. So let's talk for a minute about New Jersey, right? So I came from New Jersey. I know in your bio, and
Beautiful
I remember,
state.
I know thank God I don't pay their taxes anymore. But Ocean Township, New Jersey, which was Ocean Township separate from like Manasquan and Neptune?
Yeah, kind of right in that mix, right next to Asbury Park, which is probably what most people recognize from the Bruce Springsteen album.
There you go.
So I grew up right across the lake from Asbury.
Oh yeah. Were you
And
a surfer?
my early days,
All right.
yes.
Yeah. I did
I
a
wasn't
little
very good at
surfing.
it.
I did a little surfing too. My first banking relationship was actually at Manasquan Savings back in the day. And
Aha,
yeah.
the president and CEO of Manasquan Savings is my neighbor growing
Oh,
up.
really? Yeah. So it's a small world, but for those of you who've never been there, Ocean Township's actually really pretty. Seabright's gorgeous. One of my favorite places. Obviously, it was hit hard by the hurricane a few years back, but it has come back. Although COVID, I'm sure, is dampening the spirits of many right now. A friend of mine in Red Bank, actually, or Fairhaven, I should say, is now visiting the beach clubs again. So they've slowly started to open. So that's a good sign. Now, where are you calling in from today? I know you moved to Reno for a while, right?
Yeah, but back to Red Bank, for the audience who's not from New Jersey, might have known them from Jay and Silent Bob movies.
Oh,
So
okay.
they were all filmed in Red Bank.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'm calling in right now from beautiful Lake Tahoe. I am out west in Reno, but I've been in the mountains escaping the heat.
Yeah, not bad. Hence the sweatshirt. If you wore a sweatshirt right now in Virginia, you would be a puddle of nothing. It's 100
Yeah, it's nice
degrees,
here.
and yeah, it's hellish here today. So tell us a little about digital onboarding. I know a lot of people out there understand the concept of digital onboarding, but what is the point of pain that your company is solving right now for banks and credit unions?
It's really engagement. There's an engagement gap within financial services, and that it starts with the second the account's opened. There's a gap in engagement. The second someone opens up a checking account, particularly online when they're not in the branch, which is every account during this pandemic because the branches were closed. But that has been a big gap within the industry of how do we now continuously engage with those people and turn account openers into actual banking relationships. And that's a big gap that when you dig into the data, the gap is clear. If you take something like a checking account, which is the household relationship account, 25 to 40% of those are closed within the very first year that they're opened. Only 45% of checking openers fully engage in a meaningful way where they, this is a primary banking relationship. A lot of times that's measured through proxies of utilization of services products, direct deposits, mobile banking, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the pain we're solving. And you can think of the offering as more or less engagement as a service.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entire SaaS offering, but this is a big, particularly for community banks and credit unions, where there is a close relationship in a lot of cases between those community institutions and the customers or members that they serve. But there's a gap in terms of how do you know, grow those relationships, engage when everyone's interacting online rather than face to face,
Yeah.
changing the old model, taking advantage of those pre-existing relationships, which are strong, but moving those into the 21st century way that people operate,
Yeah.
way that people engage digitally online rather than face to face, rather than through welcome kits and mailers and
Mm.
brochures and things like
I
that.
still get those. I still get those solicitations, actually, from some of the bigger banks like Chase. I've got a credit card relationship with them, but they're not doing anything to try to convert me from that credit card relationship into a checking relationship. Yet, in a mutually exclusive way, I get a solicitation via a postcard that says, "Hey, have you considered a relationship with Chase? We're paying up to $400 right now for a checking account." They're not tying it to my Chase credit card relationship whatsoever, which is ironic. This is a behemoth that is just simply doing it wrong, probably because of the silos that exist. They don't look at it from a holistic consumer point of view. I like what you said about engagement. As you know, in my past, this is something Sean, Pete, Steve Negri, and I talked about in the past, the Brett Kings of the world. We like to call it engagement banking. We think that's the era that we are in essence, and that is where our communications and dialogue with customers or members is highly contextual and very relevant, and we're trying to align by leveraging data and dialogue the people with the right product at the right time. And it seems like that's something you guys are really doing well. Do you have a client that you're working with right now that you could share where they've got some examples that are really kicking some ass?
Yeah, we have a lot of great examples and great clients. I think we have 45 banks and credit unions running the platform now. We released it about 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The first was DCU, Digital Credit Union.
Yeah, great one.
Um, yeah, largest credit union in New England, a great institution. They went live January of 2018. So we did a lot to kind of co-develop the platform with them to make sure it's catering to the needs of the industry. Um, but they're a great if you from their success in deepening the relationship from auto loan openers, a
Mm-hmm.
notoriously unengaged segment for credit unions. They grow largely through auto loans, and you have to become a member to get that great rate. But often that person is just buying a car and getting a low rate. They're
Right,
not
right.
putting any consideration to where that rate came from. How did that organization give them such a low rate? Oh, it's a credit union. It's different. This is
Are,
why I can
are you
get a low
talking
rate.
about? Are you talking about indirect specifically?
Actually, with DCU, they're almost exclusively direct
Oh,
auto
it is
loans.
direct. Okay.
They stopped doing indirect. But even so, a direct loan holder is only a click warmer than indirect.
Yeah.
They very, very rarely do anything or consider anything besides the low rate they got for their car.
Yeah.
So that was an example of a great, engagement opportunity. They were opening so many auto loans and not being able to deepen that to get a checking relationship, to get a primary banking relationship. And we saw an 18% lift in that conversion from single product auto loan to checking relationship, primary
Mm-hmm.
relationship. Um, we've had some really good examples. Certified Federal Credit Union in California. The reason I like this one is because I've been kind of riffing on direct mail for forever.
I don't
And,
blame you.
I always hear, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense for us to be cutting down these trees and sending these postcards and stuffing, mailbox full of them. But it definitely works for credit cards. I just always have heard that. And so we finally found a partner who was going to challenge that tenant, and they completely replaced their print driven credit card cross sell campaign with a fully digital process, and they doubled results.
Mm-hmm.
So
And reduce their costs at the same time, right?
and they saved some trees.
Yeah.
It was good all around. But that was just one of the ones that I liked because um, finally we got someone audacious enough to challenge that closely held tenant that you know print works great for credit cards,
Right.
and they were able to show that you know digital can be better.
So let me ask a question, and I ask this of everybody I have on the show. Is it possible that we can find a way to make banking kind of badass or more badass, or is it hopeless? Is it simply a utility that'll never be decommoditized?
No, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in this space. Yeah, so this core banking is it's zeros and ones. It's moving digits around. So
Yeah.
uh, with a lot of banking, it is commoditized, but there's a lot of innovation going on the edges in the experience. And there's a lot of community FIs who are investing in that and looking to bring some of these innovative solutions to their customers, to their members, because again, they have the relationships. And there are dozens of these really cool and interesting fintech innovations out there. A lot of them are starting in a B2C model,
Right.
and most of them realize pretty quickly that cost of acquisition is really high. And
That's how we started at Gizio. You know,
that's
it was a
right. Yep,
B2C.com.
GCO, that's right. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
You guys, Jwala,
Yep.
Yodely, and every single one of those companies pivoted from the B2C model. Um, so it's almost like a lot of the ones that are starting today, they don't do the research or the check the history books to figure out, Gizio started B2C, Jwala started B2C,
Right.
Yodely started B2C. Oh, all ended up going B2B. Um,
Well, I think there's something
and
sexy about the whole B2C thing, right? Maybe it's heralding back to the late '90s, the whole .com. Working with the banks and the credit unions or the cores directly may not appear as sexy. It might be a lot sexier to try to be a mint.com to some of these, especially these PFM
well, it's
companies.
so capital intensive.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the cost of acquisition for a B2C and a consumer in the banking space is very high.
Yeah.
And you look at how much money Chime has raised. Chime has raised a tremendous amount of money because it's so capital intensive to acquire customers. That the community banks and credit unions, they hold the relationships.
Yeah.
So in theory, it's a really great idea because it is a lower cost of acquisition if they were able to bundle these services and yes, bring badass, cool, innovative solutions to their customers. But the gap that in that process that we are looking to fill
Mm-hmm.
is those community institutions aren't used to bringing these new innovative products to their customers. We
Right.
talk to a lot, strategy. You mentioned Strategy Core; they've got really innovative things, but a lot of institutions we'll speak to, like, this is the first new product they rolled
Yeah.
out in years.
In decades.
So, it's not in their sort of DNA yet to engage with those members and bring those new services to them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's where engagement as a service or onboarding as a service comes into play.
Yep.
So if you've got, we're working with a number of these individual innovative companies who would like to partner with the bank or partner with the credit union to bring those services to their customers. As okay, well, now you're going to need to promote that. We've got you. Engagement, onboarding as a service, hit this button,
Yeah.
and all the best content, messages, outreach is ready to go for that innovative service to your customers.
Yep. And that's the way to do it. That sounds like engagement banking to me. So aside from digital, name a bank or credit union or even a bank or a fintech that you really admire.
Well, I want to say DCU, and I'll tell you why. The reason is, and I know that a number of other institutions are doing similar things or would like to do similar
Mm-hmm.
things, but I think if you look at what DCU has done with their FinTech Innovation Center,
Yeah. The lab concept.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they were really on the forefront of this, um, and they took their community charter at heart, which was to support innovation and within particularly fintech innovation within their community. So really an altruistic part of their charter, and they would provide space, and really it was just we want to help and get these brilliant minds together.
Mm-hmm.
They may have nothing to do with our credit union. We'll never use this service. It's not relevant. It's a blockchain thing, or so I really admire that about what they've done. how they've interpreted their charter to serve their community, to help that. And that's actually where our platform came out of.
Hmm.
And our whole concept and learning and getting deeply engaged with the challenges that banking and credit union, community banking and credit union executives are facing, so that we could really understand how we as technology providers could help serve them better. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
without that sort of collaboration that they've put together, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, and we wouldn't be having the success that we're seeing.
Yep. No,
So I think that
that
I,
makes
I
sense.
really admire them, and I know that a lot of credit unions are similarly liking to solve their respective,
Hmm.
serve their respective communities in similar ways, and DCU is really helping them with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think the Boston
so
area drives a lot of innovation. I don't think it gets the credit it deserves from a fintech point of view. Obviously, I'm a little biased because of the Gizio relationship. But I look at what Eastern Bank is doing in that market. Maybe it's the 128 corridor. I don't know what it is, but there is some remarkable talent up there, and they seem to get it. I like
Boston's a pretty
Jean
good
d'Arc.
hub for fintech.
Yep, Jean d'Arc Credit Union's doing some neat stuff up there in Lowell. I don't know if you've talked to them, but you should. I
Hmm.
think they'd have an appetite for what you're doing. So let's
Yeah,
talk for a
Mass Challenge Fintech started their first program last year.
Yep, yep, that's right. That's right. So, what's changed due to COVID for you besides the fact that you're doing webinars in front of a shed?
That's not changed.
It's not
It's the
changed.
same.
This
My
is
hair's a little.
the start for those of us in the startup world. This is normal for us, except we're not jumping on planes as much, right?
That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
My beard's gotten longer. My hair's gotten longer. I'm wearing a hat now.
Yeah, yeah, you got
Uh,
really cool swag now. So I mean, that's telling you something, right?
it's somewhat more acceptable. I can blame it on the fact that the barber's been closed.
Yeah, yeah,
But operationally, nothing's changed for us as a company. We've always been a remote team. We've invested in digital workforce from the start, really, so that we could bring on the best and most talented people in the space, no matter where they lived.
yeah,
But that came in quite handy during the lockdown when everyone else was trying to figure out how do we continue operations without an office. We're like, we've never had an office,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's been easy. I think biggest changes we're serving our bank and credit union clients a little differently. A lot of them are turning to the platform for these kind of ad hoc campaigns that they didn't expect. They had just regular campaigns running for anytime someone opened up a checking account,
Hmm.
but all of a sudden, overnight, they had to figure out all of our branches are closed. How do we make sure all of our customers and members know how to access their cash digitally, know about the digital services that they haven't been trying before? So we were able to show and help them because the platform is very flexible and they could rapidly pivot in 24 hours and see great adoption of those digital services that people like mobile banking that for whatever reason people were putting off, but were forced to have to give a shot with the branches closed.
Yeah, mobile banking's huge right now. FIS reported a 200% increase in mobile banking activity in the first half of the COVID epidemic. I haven't seen any stats recently, but I'm sure they've gone through the roof. Everyone's
Makes
going
sense.
mobile. All the industries are. Well, listen, Ted, it's been great talking with you. You guys are doing fantastic work. I've been a fan. I will remain a fan. So once again, Ted, really appreciate your time today. All the best to you guys. I'm going to post your information, Digital Onboarding's information, in the comments below. For those of you out there watching, like, subscribe, dislike, comment. It's all about engagement, as I always say, just like Ted and Digital Onboarding. That's all about engagement. Ted, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.